Welcome everyone to the Proven Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Church. I'm a music producer from Northeast Ohio. I began this weekly interview series to give you different perspectives from artists, producers, engineers, and other individuals in the music industry. In each episode, we touch on not only what has helped the person succeed, but we also touch on what has shaped them into the person that they are today. I hope you're able to gain some real proven knowledge from the show, and that it helps elevate you on your own journey to success as well. Let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 301 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Today, I welcomed a fellow podcaster, Julian Jones. Julian is the host of the amazing platform called Loves Music, which I happened to be a guest on a couple months back. It was a very great, genuine conversation that Julian and I had. We initially got connected on Threads. I remember reaching out to him about being on his show, and we made that happen. And I wanted to return the favor this week by getting him on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. He talked about the initial beginnings of Loves Music. He's almost 50 episodes in at the time of this recording, and he talked about, the initial challenges that came with doing a podcast, having to kind of wade through those, the importance of delegating tasks to be able to focus on the raw, genuine conversations, and what he's learned most from the different guests he's been able to speak to so far. And I think Julian is a great example of doing a podcast and doing a platform that supports independent artists for the right reasons. I think a lot of people, just like in music, just like in anything else creatively, can get skewed by things that don't necessarily matter in the big picture. And I think Julian is someone that definitely, with a background as a musician before, he knows the importance of staying in that meaning and staying genuine to who he is and the type of people he wants to have conversations with and the overall goal with his show. And I can definitely tell you that, if you're looking to be a guest on another platform other than this one, Loves Music is definitely one you want to tap in with. So definitely check out Julian's work, check out that show. And I want to say thank you to him once again for having another awesome convo with me this week. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this one as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. This is episode 301, joined today by amazing podcast host of Loves Music, Julian Jones. And we got connected a few months back, and I was on your show, Loves Music. Thank you again for having me on your platform, and I'm glad that you're here today, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good, and I can't thank you enough for including me in what you're putting together and the platform that you're creating for artists, producers, in the hip-hop space and lo-fi, and just creators in general. Yeah. I think what you're doing is really special.
Well, I definitely appreciate that. And the interview that we did a few months ago, that was probably one of my favorite interviews that I've been a part of. So it's definitely only right to return the favor today and get you kind of on the other side of the mic. Have you been on any other podcasts, like as a guest so far?
I had very few and far between, to be honest. Right when I got started, a few people we wanted to swap episodes, but it actually has been a while. And so, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit nervous, man, just because you have a really great show. Yeah. And I want to deliver.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing to be nervous about for sure. It's definitely not going to be like anything super in depth, but I guess we'll just start with, your podcast, your show, like I said, called Loves Music. And I came across your platform via Threads. I actually saw that you were actively looking for artists to be on that show. I checked out some of the episodes and then reached out to you. I guess we're going to start with, where did the idea come from to kind of start this show? Was it just being a fan of music and being a fan of independent artists? And, how long have you been doing this as well?
Okay. Well, in terms of starting it, I'm going to say all the above. Fan of independent artists, fan of podcasts, fan of great music, and didn't really have the bandwidth to continue doing music on my own. But I always thought, how can I stay close to the fire and still stay warm? And it's like, well, maybe I can add some kind of value in terms of creating a platform for artists to present their work in a longer format, whether that's a show, whether that's little videos. And just doing that podcast series made a lot of sense to me at the time. And I've been really lucky. I mean, I'm closing in on episode 50. And I mean, the artists that I'm meeting with are just incredible. I mean, yourself included. So that's kind of how I stumbled onto the idea. What was the other question?
No, I think you pretty much covered
Okay.
it right there. And
Mhm.
I guess for you, as far as yourself as a music maker, let's start with that portion of it because you said you kind of put that on the back burner, which I've talked to other podcasters as well that also do music, and they talk about the struggles of kind of being able to do both, or maybe the lack of desire to do both. They kind of just want to focus on one thing or the other. So for you, where did that decision come from to kind of shift to doing more of the, let me put on these other artists, let me give them a platform instead of chasing, what you were chasing as a musician yourself?
Okay. Well, it's two very different chapters of my life. I had more or less almost like a music renaissance in my late 20s where I met up with a really good engineer. I had some ideas. He had the ability to take the mess that's inside my mind and turn it into pretty decent songs. So I basically did an album a year from 2009 to about 2014. And here I am in my 30s, like, all right, time to get a big boy job. If I'm not going to be an international sensation, go get a big boy job and I can enjoy the music from afar. But when that creative wind blows through, man, it gets weird. You want to make stuff. You're like, all right, well, I don't want to spend 6-7 hours a night in a studio anymore.
Yeah.
But how do what do I do to just kind of stay close to it? So the podcast gave me the opportunity to say, okay, well, I'm going to these shows. I'm kind of just craving some kind of connection. I was also working a remote job, so I'm literally just on an island by myself in front of a computer all day. I'm like, how do you marry these ideas?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, all right, let me just start interviewing artists and like reaching out and seeing if, we can connect over these like really cool pieces of music that are totally underrated,
Yeah, for sure.
So
go ahead.
it made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of sounds like it fell into your lap almost like organically as well, which I think is the best part about it. And I always love to ask as well when it comes to running a platform like that. Obviously, I myself know a lot of the challenges that go into, trying to get people on board with that because I think when you're doing the podcast as a solo person, just one person, it's a lot easier to crank out episodes all the time. But when you're relying on a guest and their schedule every week or every other week, depending on when you're doing it, there's a lot of different things that can come up. So for you, what were the challenges early on that were presented to you with trying to get this thing off the ground? And also, how have you kind of overcome those challenges now that you've been doing it for almost 50 episodes, like you said?
Well, the technology finally caught up to me. And when I say caught up, I mean somebody like me who can barely write an email finally can use the technology to make a cool show without, jumbling over a bunch of, errors and, wires. I was lucky enough that I connected with a engineer, Angelina from Wild Wave Podcasting. We actually synced up, and she had an infrastructure that fit perfectly into what I was doing. So I have the benefit of being able to focus on the artist relationships, and she can do the heavy lifting in terms of editing, in terms of just getting the post, kind of distributed on all the different platforms. I mean, she sends me like a really neat file. It's still a lot of work in terms of like reaching out to artists, and I'm very particular with which artists I connect with. Like, I have to like their music. You have to imagine people are starved for connection.
Yeah.
So when they hear you have a podcast, you would be surprised how many people are like, hey man, can I come on and just talk and hang out? And it's like, dude, we can hang out, but like my episode is very specific. Like I have a very specific thing I'm trying to do, so I have to really like your music. You have to be doing something interesting, which means that it takes a lot of work to like find those diamonds in the rough.
Yeah.
Sure. These artists, like I have an artist, his name is Mark Ramos. It's kind of a Tame Impala thing where it's like it's him, but he just uses a band name, and then he has like a touring band. And the name of the band is Morning Wars. And I heard his album, and I was like, how is this guy not an international star? And I reached out, and he returns a text. And next thing you know, I'm talking to somebody who I would pay whatever it costs to go to his concert. Turns out he returns a DM, and I got to hang out with him for an hour.
Yeah.
That's insane to me.
Yeah.
That would never have been possible 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Same with Lena Cooper from LA. Beautiful, blonde, pop punk princess. She would never return a DM, but I have a podcast. And like I reached out and I said, hey, I love the music. It literally sounds like 2025.
Wow.
Like her album sounds like If you took 2025 and put it in 7 songs, that's what it is. I interviewed her on episode 18 or 19 for an hour. You should not be able to do that. And I'm so grateful that between work with Angelina and between having, a platform like Riverside where I could just kind of plug in and figure it out. Now I can do that. 5 years ago, I'd never been able to do that.
Yeah. I always say for myself, doing both music and podcasting itself has opened so many doors for me and created so many relationships that I never would have got by just being a music maker, which is crazy. And I know you feel the same. It's like, wow, you would have never guessed the amount of different relationships that you formed over the years just by doing this. And for you, you're 50 episodes in. Imagine another 100 episodes, how many more people you're going to meet and where that's going to go from there. And I think there's some interesting parallels in being a musician and also doing something like a podcast. You talked about delegating some of that work to someone else. And that's something that I think we could take notes on as independent artists too, where we're always trying to do everything DIY ourselves and we don't want to have anybody else involved. But if you can find people that are trustworthy and good people that understand your brand and what you try to do, and you get them on board, you can start delegating those tasks elsewhere, which helps you, like you said, to be able to focus on having those conversations, meeting those people, doing that sort of thing. So that's very exciting, and congrats on that, because I think that is something to definitely be proud of. And that kind of leads me into talking about the conversations themselves with these individuals. What do you think is your favorite part about just the conversations, learning from people, learning from these individuals, and what do you think, if there's any so far, what was your favorite conversation or one of your favorite conversations that you've had up to this point?
I am talking to these artists as a fan, and it sounds like, well, yeah, you have to be interested in their music to invite them on a podcast, and it's not that simple. I'm genuinely a fan of them. Like, I can't see past, like, my interest in the artist isn't contingent on their following or their streams or whether or not they sold out the Staples Center or the Wells Fargo Center. I'm sitting there as a fan, and yes, I have the outline and I have kind of like the points I want to cover, but there's this magic moment in the conversation where I'm not reading from a paper anymore. And we kind of fall into this groove, and I was like, oh my God, I forgot I was recording because I'm just so into it.
Yeah.
It happened with Rebecca McCartney from New York. She is a kind of an indie folk singer. We made the joke because she actually has a friend whose last name was Lennon. So like, we should make a song. We should have a songwriting duo called Lennon and McCartney. And then we started nerding out about the Beatles, and 20 minutes went by. And I was like, and I loved her music. She ended up on Jimmy Fallon like the next week.
That's wild.
Like, she's like a legit artist,
wow.
She's my friend, you know, like if I called her right now, she'd return a phone call.
Yeah.
I actually had my dad on. I mean, like I think we were like 20 minutes into the conversation, and I was just like hanging with my dad, and I was like, oh my God, I got a show to do. And I'm like 30 minutes into a podcast, but that's the best part of it. You have to be able to approach it. And I don't mean half as in like I'm telling people what to do.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to approach it with a childlike wonder to get that magic moment and be genuinely interested. If you have a list of questions and you're just jotting down and you're just checking boxes on a list, I don't think your audience is going to have that magic. I don't think you're going to have that same love for it. You have to allow yourself that like childlike wonder, like take it back to when you were like 8 or 9, the first time you heard, Alvin and the Chipmunks, and you're like, oh yeah, the Christmas light, like there was like a child, like you just heard it, like that squeaky voice, and you're like, oh, this is so cool and fun. Like that same goofy innocence, you have to be able to capture that as an adult. And I think that's how you get those magic conversations. But it's hard because we're cynical now. We're old. We got bills. We got time. We don't want to look stupid. We don't want to ask silly questions that sound like we're not hip and know what's going on.
Yeah.
And if you can put all that stuff away and like really like open yourself up to these like interesting folks with these like awesome pieces of music, you're going to have some awesome episodes.
Yeah. Wanted to take a quick minute out of today's episode to let you guys know of a way that you can support the show, a way that you can donate some funds to us, starting at as little as $5 or more via our Ko-fi page. Now, we've been using Ko-fi now for a few years, and it's been a very effective way to generate some funds that we end up using for, future guests, sponsors, just an overall way to keep this show as quality as it has been for the last several years, and we always appreciate any and all contributions. So if you go to ko-fi.com/The Proven Knowledge Podcast, that's ko-fi.com/The Proven Knowledge Podcast, you can donate, like I said, $5 or more. It gives you that option to do 10, 20, 30, or just type in whatever amount. Any contributions are appreciated. And, I do this show from the bottom of my heart for the love of it at the end of the day. But those funds are always welcome, because they do allow us to do more and be more flexible with how we continue to grow this platform in the future. So I just wanted to let you guys know about that. The link will be in the description of the show notes of this episode you're listening to now, so definitely check it out. But without further ado, let's get back into the episode. And that's why I think that goes back to what you said earlier about how you actually have to be a genuine fan of what they're doing, because how are you going to have that conversation if you hate their music? It's going to be, you're going to be pretending your way through the entire conversation. It's Absolutely. Like, what's the point of that? You're not doing anybody any good by doing that. It's going to feel like a job. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we already have those. Exactly. It's supposed to be fun. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that definitely says a lot about you and how you're building this platform. And it's in the name, loves music. Like, you have to actually love the artist and what they do, and vice versa. They have to love your platform and what you're doing and what you're putting out as well. Which is super vital. And I gotta say, the way you've been pushing your platform by doing like social media content, like I said, you're heavy on Threads. I notice you're on Threads a lot, promoting the show. You do a lot of great stuff on Instagram as well. Talk a little bit about how you approach kind of marketing this show to people, and what are some of the best platforms for you that you found to be able to expand the reach and expand the listenership as well?
Maybe because of my age, I think I get the most traction on Instagram. I mean, obviously that's probably the platform I've been on the longest, not counting Facebook is like, if I want to get feedback from my parents' friends, I'll get it from Facebook. But like Instagram is like where I'm like the most active. I try to respond to everyone on Instagram. I think for whatever reason, something about the real length, the colors, the captions mixed with the picture, for whatever reason, that medium just works for me. I think, believe it or not, the average listener is a Threads user, because I think a lot of my listeners are kind of like quiet, introverted, a little bit frustrated artists. And for whatever reason, Threads is like the hub for like frustrated, sad artists that just want to like talk and chat and like share their situation. So really good engagement on Threads and Instagram. I still haven't cracked the code on TikTok. If I'm being honest, I feel like a fish out of water on there.
Same here, honestly. I feel like I go over there and I post just to say I posted it, and I don't go over there hardly at all. I'm not doom scrolling over there. I'm not doing anything. I post and I leave. That's pretty much it.
Post and ghost, right?
Yeah, post and ghost, 100%. But definitely shout out to Threads, because it's been around now for, I think, almost 3 years. I think 2023 is when it came into play. Yeah. And I love, honestly, I'm going to be honest, hate algorithms, not a fan of any of that. But the algorithm on Threads is interesting, because I feel like I see more of the people you're talking about, creatives, and it knows that I am a musician and that I engage with artists as well. So it already knows like the type of people that I want to see on my timeline, and it starts showing me those. And I've connected with a lot of great people like yourself because of that, which I think is super awesome. Hopefully they don't change it up, because the moment we say we like something, they're going to probably change it up eventually. Right. And I don't think it hasn't been inundated with a bunch of ads yet. Not yet. Yeah, not yet. It's interesting too that Facebook, Instagram, Threads, all owned by the same company, but yet, like you said, Facebook is like, oh, it's our parents, our grandparents just hanging out, talking about a pot roast or something. It's like that's pretty much all it is. But when I get feedback on Facebook, right, I'll get like, say if I get 5 likes
at least 3 of them will be in my family.
Yep.
And one of those 3 will be my mom saying, "Love the podcast. Are you coming for dinner on Sunday?"
Yes, Mom. I'll be there.
I was like, "Mom, you could have texted this. Right? You don't have to like put this like on my episode content."
Yeah, for sure. It's very interesting how the different platforms continue to evolve over the years, and to see where they're going to go moving forward as well. I guess, before we get into the last few questions, I always ask if there's anyone you want to shout out, anybody that has been a big influential part of this journey as a podcaster, or just in your life in general, or any collaborators that you just want people to know about today.
Absolutely. There's a couple artists that come to mind who I feel I had a really good connection with, who continue to stay in touch and are really encouraging. The first one that comes to mind is Louisa from Virginia Beach. Louisa was actually a bridge to one of my more recent guests, Mickey Shiloh. Mickey Shiloh is going to be on episode 48, which is about to air. And Mickey is a songwriter who has credits with Britney Spears, Janet Jackson. Again, she has no business spending any time with me. But I mean, she was so vulnerable and so open in her interview that it was one of those moments, and I'm sure you have them too, where you're like, this is why I do this.
Yeah.
It's like, this is fun, and it has like its headaches like any other thing, but you hit stop on the record and the episode's done, and you're like, this is why it's all worth it, because of this moment here.
Yeah.
And I had that moment with Mickey, which I wouldn't have had, and I had the same thing with Louisa. And I wouldn't have had it with Mickey if not for Louisa connecting us. Yeah. So shout out to Alyssa from Virginia Beach. Shout out to Mickey Shiloh. On the next episode, Mickey Shiloh is actually currently in Nashville. I'm actually getting ready to host a music summit. So just 2 really quality young ladies who I had a pleasure to work with.
That's awesome.
I mean, all my guests are special, but those are the 2 that come to mind.
Yeah, and it's like we talked about earlier about how one door kind of opens another door, opens another door, opens another, and you just keep going and going and going. Which is very incredible. And is there anything else in 2026 that is just very exciting to you that's going to be coming out that people should be on the lookout for as well?
Absolutely. I've actually I had to check my ego and my insecurity because I've been so nervous to do a solo episode just because I can't stand talking about myself. And my engineer, Angelina, shout out to Angelina, has been on me. She's like, you have to, like, people want to know who you are. They only get little nuggets throughout your episodes. Can you just give them your story? I don't care how you do it. Just give it to them. Give them the story. Yeah. And I'm like, all right. I'll find a clever way to do it. So I think for episode 50, my 50th episode, I'm going to compile the questions that I usually ask my guests. I'm going to take outside questions. If anybody wants to know anything about me, and I'm going to compile them, and I'll just knock them off the list and just answer them all in my 50th episode. And that's how we'll commemorate, 1 year of Love's Music with my solo episode. So
well, that's really exciting.
I think I'd be interested to get some feedback. See what people think.
For sure. I did a solo episode last year, I think, and it was only because I had a guest cancel on me. And last minute, I was like, let me just interview myself on this episode. And it's honestly it's a weird experience because I feel like you almost learn a little bit about yourself in a way by no matter how you do it. If you interview yourself or if you just like speak about what's happening and reflect on where you've been, that's kind of what I did in mine. I reflected on I think it might have been the 200th episode or 250 or something like that, and I kind of reflected back, and then at the end of it I was like, wow, I really have done a lot. Like, this is kind of crazy. So hopefully that's the same for you in your experience with doing it as well. That's going to be exciting.
Can I ask you about that, like producing your own episode? I've obviously tried to make smaller form content, just talking to the camera, and it always feels kind of weird. Like I'm doing a monologue to nobody. Yeah. When you're doing your episode, does it feel more like you're talking to yourself, or does it feel more performative?
I don't know. See, it usually feels like I'm talking to almost like an audience to some degree, and it kind of goes it kind of goes that way with like the monthly check-in videos that I do, because those are meant to serve somebody else as well. So I kind of keep that in mind, where it's like I'm not necessarily talking to myself. I'm more so just talking to the type of listener, the type of viewer that I would want to see this content, essentially. So I guess that's just how I approach it, but I know every individual is different with how they do it. So Yeah. I think just
Yeah,
like
because I don't want to feel like I'm presenting. I have to present for my job. Like I have to do PowerPoints and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't want my episode to feel like that.
Yeah, I totally get it.
But then
too,
at the same time, like the contemplative voice in my head when I'm driving alone is probably the most interesting stuff. But I don't know how to duplicate that comfortably in front of a camera.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just like anything else. Practice makes perfect, and just kind of getting in there and not knowing what you're doing is probably the best part. You can just go in and have fun and just stay loose with it and see where it goes. So, but I'm excited for that, man, and I'm looking forward to definitely checking that out when it drops. So it's gonna be awesome. Last few questions here. These are more life-related ones I ask on every episode. First one, if you could go back 10 years ago, give yourself any piece of advice, or maybe not change anything at all, what do you think you would do?
So 10 years ago puts me in my early 30s. I would say draw a hard line between what you want to be fun and what you want to be successful. And keep that perspective as you go through it. Because there's things that you're doing for fun that you want to try to turn into a business, and you have to fully commit. And there's things that you want to be fun that should just be fun and have fun doing them, and don't expect any kind of monetary reward. Yeah. But when you try to blend the two, you have unrealistic expectations, and it's the source of a lot of your frustration. So if you were to funnel all your talent into your business and treat it like a business, you would have a lot of success. Yeah. And if you just enjoy the things that are supposed to be fun, just let them be fun. Yeah. I think that comes with the wisdom of going through those experiences too, because you can't just get there immediately. I don't think anybody does. I think that's like you gotta kind of live and learn through those. And I'm stealing a little bit from. Are you familiar with Stephen Pressfield? He wrote The Hot Gates. He wrote The War of Art. And then he wrote Turning Pro. I've heard the name. For sure. So that's what Turning Pro is about. He's like, okay, what does it actually mean to be a pro? Yeah, you like painting? What does it mean to be a professional painter? Yeah. And then he draws the differences, Yeah. And we do that with podcasts. And it's like, hey, do you want to have fun podcasting, or do you want to be a lucrative podcaster? Those are two very different experiences. Yep. And if you keep that in mind, you won't get all frustrated. You'd be like, okay, are you just having fun podcasting? Who cares? All right, then don't worry about the views. Just make cool stuff with your friends. Yeah. If you want to be a professional, here's a long list of things you got to do to be a professional. Yeah. So unless you're doing those, you don't get the other rewards that come with it. Exactly. Taking off one hat, putting on the next hat, and doing that as much as you can do. So, and usually we end up flipping that question, and we say 10 years from now, where do you think you envision yourself with this podcast, with this platform, but also in your life in general? Okay. Well, two different questions. With the podcast, I would love to be able to move the needle financially for other artists. I want my platform to be big enough such that if you are doing a show in Philadelphia at the Fillmore and you do my podcast the week of your show, it will actually spike your ticket sales, or you'll get like a little bump in merch just from doing my podcast. I would love to be able to offer that to artists. I think it will take about 10 years for my podcast to be big enough to do that, but I hope it does. Yeah. In life, I would like to be, I think I'll always have a 9-to-5. So I don't think I'll ever be able to do the podcast like full time. But yeah, I would like to be in a career where I'm happy, something that's creative. I think by 10 years, I'll be good enough at the podcast that I'll be able to mentor someone else that's coming up that says, hey man, I just want to kind of do something creative in media. I'll be far enough along such that I can give sound advice based on experience, not just theorize what I think will work. Yeah. I love that. I think that's a great way to give back too, and help the next generation in a big way. And something for you, I think, would be awesome too, is a lot of in-person interviews. I think that would be really cool. That'd be fun to get to do more of those in the future. So it's going to be very exciting to see where that leads. That's a really good. I would love to do like a Loves Music Presents, like once a month, like go on site. Yeah. With like somebody's in town, even like one of my artists that I've already talked to, like, hey, you guys are playing Philly. Yeah. Dude, spare 30 minutes and let me just come to wherever you're at and shoot a video. I gotta say, because I haven't done a ton of them, but I've done a few of them, and they're some of the best conversations because we even completely get rid of that technology barrier and we're just there in person. Yeah. It's like
some of the best
Right.
conversations
Yeah.
that you have by doing that. So definitely.
And you have a very disarming energy. Like, I could see an artist sitting down with you and like forgetting the lights and cameras are on.
Yeah, and
You
that's the goal. You want to make them feel at home and just like we're two friends having a nice chat.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what
Yeah.
you want to make them feel like. So definitely cool stuff. And do you have any final words of wisdom for the listeners today?
If you're going to do anything in art or creativity that's going to take long, consider not just what you're trying to do and the goals and what the end result is going to be. Consider the how. If you're going to do art or music or podcast, you want to have a huge following, it's going to be a marathon. It is not a sprint. Don't just consider the result. Consider how you want to work. Think about the environment you want to be in. Think about the people you want to work with. Is the team around you building you up? Or are they making it more anxious? Is the environment you're working in surrounded by a lot of distractions or people that are nurturing your creativity? Consider the how and kind of reframe it to think, okay, is this somebody I want to work with for the next 5 or 6 years? Is this an environment I want to work in for the next 5 or 6 years? Is this the kind of infrastructure that I can kind of grow on and augment with other pieces over the next 5 to 7 years? If you embrace the process in that frame, I think you have a better chance of staying in the race.
Yeah. Implementing those strategies is a huge thing, and I completely agree. And like I said earlier, I think it's just having to learn that early on, and then the more you go, you're like, now I know how to do that and surround myself with the right people.
Absolutely.
Well, Julian, that's all I have for you today, man. And again, I gotta say congrats on everything you're doing with Love's Music. One of my favorite podcasts. It's in the top of the Spotify listenership for me as far as podcasts go. So I'm excited to keep checking out the platform. And again, I want to thank you for having me on the show a couple months back. And I'm looking forward to seeing how we connect and collaborate again moving forward here soon, man. So congrats on everything you got going.
Well, thank you, Anthony. I think what you're doing is awesome. And I'm happy that I could be just a small part of it today, man. And I'm humbled and impressed watching you work. I'm learning a lot from you in terms of consistency, how to treat people, how to really elevate a platform, and just do the right things for the right reasons. And I hope you're wildly successful, man.
Just want to say thank you for tuning in today. Be sure to hit that coffee link in the description of this episode if you'd like to donate any funds. And we'll see you back here with another new episode next week. As always, thank you for your support.